Hi again, this is Chris Klein, Director of Butterfly Ridge, Butterfly Conservation Center, here in a still soggy southeast Ohio. Pretty much the rain hasn't stopped since April 1st, so I think we're in the neighborhood of like 13.5 inches of rain since April 1st here, which is about 6 inches too many. So yeah, things are kind of spongy. But today I wanted to talk about milkweed because a lot of the milkweeds are starting to come into bloom. So we're going to go on kind of a tour de milkweed here at Butterfly Ridge. So we're actually going to start right at the entrance to Butterfly Ridge. We're just going to kind of go in order right along the trail as far as which milkweeds that we have here. And we are going to start actually at our front entrance. You can probably see the highway behind me there. So right next to the highway, we've got a lovely patch of common milkweed, and hopefully we're still in focus there. The common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca, and ooh, we just had a butterfly fly in to prove my point. Got a little silver spotted skipper there. And so common milkweed is a native perennial milkweed, absolute butterfly magnet. Okay, as far as the nectar plant goes, I'll be honest, you can't do much better than the common milkweed. Plus, just shortly before I came up here, two of my interns pulled a couple of caterpillars off of the common milkweed. So it's an excellent caterpillar plant for the monarch butterfly. Here, I'm getting distracted by the butterflies on the milkweed. So there you went. So we got great spangled fritillary that's buzzing the milkweed there. Now, some people have tried to tell me that common milkweed is a invasive plant. Now, the way I view the world, if you're a native plant, by definition, you can't be invasive. Now, what common milkweed is, it is a colonizer. So you get disturbed ground, and common milkweed tends to be one of the first things that shows up. And it tends to spread. It's one of the few milkweeds that spread underground by the roots. So I think that's how it gets that reputation of being invasive. But it is, once again, I prefer to think of it as a colonizer, not an invader, since it does belong here. And so yeah, common milkweed, that's our first milkweed on our tour here. Once again, the upside, it's a great monarch caterpillar plant. It's a great nectar plant. The downside, at least for some folks, is sometimes it spreads where they don't want it. But you know what? That's when you dig it up or you just mow it off, and it's no big deal. And so I'm going to shut this off for now and walk to our next milkweed, and we'll get you up to speed on that one, which I think is going to be swamp milkweed. Alrighty, here we are. We are at milkweed number 2 on the Butterfly Ridge Tour de Milkweed here, and that is this one. Okay, and that is swamp milkweed, just coming into bloom. Flower buds are looking pretty good. I bet it'll be blooming within a week and a half or so. And the swamp milkweed, we have it planted here in our wetland area, but one of the nice things about swamp milkweed is you don't necessarily have to plant it in a swamp. It's a fair nectar plant. I won't call it a great nectar plant. It certainly is not as good as the common milkweed. It is probably an equally good caterpillar host plant for monarchs as the common milkweed is, so it does definitely have that going for it. The one thing that we've had about the swamp milkweed is it tends to be moody with where you plant it. So it's kind of moody, and it also seems to be kind of short-lived. So I think, let's see, we planted some swamp milkweed, probably 5 years ago, and it only lasted for like 2 seasons, I think, 2 years, and then it didn't come back. And I've heard other people say that as well, that it just doesn't seem to be very long-lived. You know, you can plant it in one place and it does great, and then you plant it 15 feet away and it fusses and doesn't like that. So it is not my first choice for milkweeds, but if you have kind of a wet sunny spot, then it can definitely be a choice. So that's milkweed number 2 on our tour de milkweed, and I'm going to turn you off again here, and we will head up the hill towards the tree house for milkweed number 3. Okay, I'm back almost to the top of the hill here, a little out of breath. Bad knees and getting out of shape does that to you. So milkweed number 3, I think, is actually here in what we call our south woods, and I'll kind of swing the camera around so you can see our south woods. So milkweed number 3 is actually right below me here, and right there at my foot, that thing, it looks sort of like a poison ivy or something maybe. Okay, that is milkweed number 3. That is 4-leaf milkweed. Let me try to grab a hold of it, make sure you see the right thing here. So, right there. Okay, that is 4-leaf milkweed. It blooms a real kind of a bright white, almost bordering on pink flower. Unfortunately, the deer like to eat it, so don't have any pictures of butterflies nectaring on it. Have yet to be able to collect any seed pods off of it, because as soon as it starts blooming, the deer come through and eat it, which is terribly unfair on their part, considering I've got all this yummy multiflora rose here that they could be eating. So needless to say, the 4-leaf milkweed, I don't really consider that a very strong butterfly plant, because A, it tends to grow here in the woods. It's one of the few shade tolerant milkweeds, so it grows in the woods where the butterflies don't normally hang out. And since it's down here in the woods, normally the monarchs don't find it to lay eggs on it. So it's kind of a unique novelty type of a plant, but from a butterfly gardening perspective, your butterfly garden could probably live without it, unless your butterfly garden is a real heavy shade area, and then you actually might be able to use the 4-leaf milkweed. And so that is Asclepias quadrifolia. And our next stop, I don't know how well you can see it, see post number 7 up there. That's where our next stop is. Okay, so here we are at just behind good old post number 7 there for our 4th milkweed, and it is another one of those shade tolerant milkweeds, of which there are very, very few, and it is this plant right here. Okay, and that is poke milkweed. Now, not pokeweed, that's a totally different beast. This is poke milkweed. Show you again here. We got several of them planted right here, and you got the flowers right there. So this is Asclepias exaltata, and where we've got it planted is actually at the edge of our woodland clearing here. And the poke milkweed, it's not native to our site, but we gathered the seeds from a little township road about 4 miles away from here, so it is native to the locality. Once again, it prefers growing in the shade, which actually makes it kind of valuable if your butterfly garden has a lot of shade in it. Now, the butterflies, what we have found, the butterflies aren't real crazy about the flowers in terms of nectar, although with that said, at our Hocking County butterfly count this past Saturday, I actually got a picture of a silver-spotted skipper nectaring from the poke milkweed, which first picture I've ever gotten of that. However, The monarchs, they will lay eggs on it, and in fact last year in this little patch that I'm showing you, we found about 15 monarch caterpillars in here. So, you know, monarchs will definitely use it. The bees really like the flowers, and once again, I talk about bees and people get all freaked out. Realize if the bees are busy visiting flowers, they could care less if you're standing there watching them. So poke milkweed, I'll be honest, is one of my favorites. It's good stuff. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet is realize all these milkweeds I'm showing you, normally by the end of summer or early autumn, we have seed available for all of these, with the exception of that 4-leaf milkweed, since the deer always eat those. But so yeah, if you're interested in seed for any of these, touch base with us, like I said, late summer or early autumn, and we can get you set up. So let's see, if I recall, this was number 4. So number 5 is actually just down the trail here. So once again, I'll just see you in a little bit. Alrighty, so I'm about 30 yards down the trail from where I was. Just had a fly or bug of some kind fly right in my ear there. So we are now looking at milkweed. I think we're up to number 5 now, and that is purple milkweed, and that is this one right here. Okay, that is Asclepias purpurascens, and I will try to include a picture of what it looks like when it's in bloom, because I'll be honest, as far as like flower color, purple milkweed's absolutely one of my favorite plants. The flowers are just gorgeous. We've got it planted here on the downhill side of our clearing. It can handle a little bit of shade, not as much shade as what the poke milkweed can handle. This little patch of purple milkweed, once again, is not native to our site, but we collected the seed for it down around New Plymouth, Ohio, which is kind of on the Athens, towards the Athens-Vinton County line, so not real far from here, maybe 20 miles. Nectar-wise, the flower nectar, I mean, it's every bit the butterfly magnet that the common milkweed is. I mean, butterflies, moths, beetles, bees, flies, all of it likes purple milkweed. Now, I'll admit I've never found a monarch caterpillar on purple milkweed, and I've looked at plenty of it over the years, but you know, maybe other people have found monarch caterpillars on the purple milkweed. Once again, we grow all of our milkweeds from seed here. So these guys, once again, they started out as seed. I believe we started them 4 years ago. One of the things that we have found, purple milkweed, it readily germinates. It germinates pretty easy, but it's really hard to get it through the first winter. That it doesn't overwinter well for some reason that first year, so we've lost a lot of it then. But this batch here that I just showed you is doing great, and we've got another one out kind of at the wooded edge of our prairie. We'll swing by there and see what it looks like. I haven't looked at it for a while, so it may actually be blooming, I'm not sure. So yeah, so that's milkweed number 5, the purple milkweed, Asclepias purpurascens. Phenomenal nectar plant. As far as a host plant for monarchs, not so much, but a phenomenal nectar plant. So I'm going to close up shop, and we'll meet you at milkweed number 6. Alrighty, here we are at milkweed number 6 on Tour de Milkweed here at Butterfly Ridge. Where I've brought you now is actually where we call inside the fence, which means visitors aren't allowed to come here. Let me show you what the place looks like. It's actually where our garden used to live, and it's where our greenhouses used to live. Yeah, it's where our greenhouses live, although that front one, saying it used to live, might be a little bit more accurate. So as you can see, this area is not real highly maintained, which maybe is an intern project one of these days, who knows. So anyways, the reason I brought you here was not to look at the weed patch. It was to get you to look at milkweed number 6 here, which is this one right here. Okay, Not quite in bloom yet. The flower buds are coming along real nice, so I'll make sure to include a picture of what those flowers look like. But this is tall green milkweed, Asclepias hurtella. And you can see we got a fair bit of it here. There's a real nice one, and then some more over here. Asclepias hurtella, tall green milkweed. The flowers are actually more bee flowers than they are butterflies. I don't see butterflies on the hurtella flowers very often, but the bees absolutely like it. However, we have found monarch caterpillars somewhat regularly on the hurtella here, so it does have potential as a caterpillar plant. If you're looking for butterfly nectar, there's probably other milkweeds that do better, but you know, it's kind of a novelty plant in a way. A lot of folks aren't familiar with it, haven't seen it before. In its current form, don't necessarily recognize it as a milkweed. So it is kind of a fun plant that way. We have some also out in the prairie. It actually came in on its own. We didn't necessarily plant it out there. Now, one of the things I have found with the hurtella, sometimes the ants really seem to like it. So this batch here, I've never really noticed the ants on it, but the hurtella that's out in the prairie, it has accumulated ants in the past. So just kind of a heads up on that. So once again, this is Asclepias hurtella, also known as tall green milkweed, and that is milkweed number 6 on our fantastic tour de milkweed here. And so our next stop, number 7. What is number 7 going to be? Probably the butterfly weed, I think, is going to be number 7. So we'll see you again here in a bit. Alrighty, here we are for milkweed number 7. As you can see behind me, we're out in the prairie now. Looks sort of like that last stop, although the prairie is actually supposed to look like this, where the garden is not. But that's beside the point. So I also lied. The butterfly weed was not the next one. The next one is actually world milkweed, and that is spelled W-H-O-R-L-E-D, since there's a couple different directions you can go with that word. So world milkweed, or Asclepias verticillata, and I'm going to try to show it to you. I'll be honest, it blends in really nicely with everything else. So hopefully you can see that right there, and it's hopefully not too blurry for you. So that is Asclepias verticillata. That is world milkweed. Once again, not necessarily native to our site, but absolutely native to Ohio. I'm not sure we've got it in the right place here. I think maybe it has a little bit of trouble competing in such a thick, lush environment. It would probably prefer more of a garden setting, I would suspect. As far as nectar goes, I know especially the smaller butterflies and the bees will nectar on it. Big butterflies, not so much. But it's a really, really good monarch caterpillar plant. And to give you an idea, out west we had an extremely close cousin to this one called Asclepias subverticillata, and I'll be honest, I don't know the difference between the two. They look so similar. And out west in the desert southwest, subverticillata, that was the milkweed that monarchs laid eggs on. Okay, 99% of all the monarch caterpillars that we found was on subverticillata. And I've had some of the few nurserymen who grow subverticillata here in Ohio have told me they constantly have to pick monarch caterpillars off of it. And they grow verticillata, not subverticillata. Too close. So anyways, so it is this one right here. Okay, those flowers will be white, and once again I'll try to include a photo of those. And so that was milkweed number 7 on our tour de milkweed here. And milkweed number 8 is actually not far away. In fact, we'll just walk a little ways down. They're almost in full bloom. Not quite, but they are super close. And that is this one right here. We got a lovely view of mating milkweed bugs there as well. This is butterfly weed, Asclepias tuberosa. Okay, and it's the bright orange milkweed that you see out in the fields and whatnot. And absolute nectar butterfly magnet. Once again, it's right up there in the same category as common milkweed and the purple milkweed as far as nectar goes. Now, I've had kind of mixed feelings about how it's used by the caterpillars. So for example, I mean, we had Asclepias tuberosa in the desert southwest, and you rarely found monarch caterpillars on it. We've had the Asclepias tuberosa here in this field before it was a prairie, when it was still kind of a nasty old abused field. Rarely found caterpillars on it then. But then I think it was 2 years ago, 90% of the monarch caterpillars that we found at Butterfly Ridge were on the tuberosa. So it's like the monarchs kind of go in phases, and sometimes they like tuberosa, sometimes they like swamp milkweed, sometimes they like common milkweed, sometimes they like Asclepias hurtella, the tall green. You know, it all varies. So hence the reason why you need all of them in your butterfly garden. And so so that would be milkweed number 8. And so once again, we've tried to cover all of our milkweed bases here. And once again, there's basically a milkweed for every occasion. Okay, so if you have a wet spot, you go with the swamp milkweed or the common milkweed. If you have a dry spot, the butterfly weed or the world milkweed or the tall green are good choices for the dry spots. If you have shade, that's the 4-leaf milkweed or the poke milkweed. So once again, there's a milkweed for every occasion. Now, our next Landscaping for Life video, we're going to continue with the milkweed, but I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long. So, so part 2 will be coming up here in a week or so, when we'll talk a little bit about milkweed management. And so then, until then, hopefully we'll see you out here at Butterfly Ridge. You know what, even though it's a nasty, cloudy, rainy spring, believe it or not, we still have butterflies out here. So so come on out and visit us. We're open Thursday through Monday from 10 till 5. Guided tours at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, or whenever you want one. So we try to be flexible. And so until later, grow some milkweed. Bye.